We often tell the story of America through its great leaders, its defining documents, and its epic battles. We talk about presidents, generals, and revolutionaries as the primary movers of history. But what if I told you there's another force at play, a silent architect that has shaped the nation's destiny in ways we rarely acknowledge? Beneath the soldier's boots and the diplomat's pens lies the Earth itself. Subtle shifts in climate, a distant volcanic eruption. The slow exhaustion of soil have redirected the course of American history more powerfully than many treaties. This is the story of the unseen hand, the environmental pressures that have pushed, pulled, and molded the United States. Let's travel back to 1816, a year that would become known as the year without a summer. The year before, on the other side of the world in Indonesia, Mount Tambora erupted with unimaginable force. It was the largest volcanic eruption in recorded history, and it launched a colossal cloud of ash into the stratosphere. This ash cloud circled the globe, acting like a giant sunshade, collecting sunlight away from the Earth. The consequences were devastating. In New England, summer never arrived. Frost and snow were reported in June and July, killing crops in the fields. Livestock starved, and the threat of famine became very real for thousands of families. For farmers in places like Vermont and Massachusetts, this environmental catastrophe was a breaking point. Their land, which had supported their families for generations, suddenly seemed unreliable and hostile. So, they did the only thing they could. They left. This climate-driven disaster sparked one of the first great waves of westward expansion. Families packed their belongings and headed for the Ohio River Valley, hoping to find a more stable climate and fertile land. Naway, a volcano in Indonesia. This unseen hand was responsible for populating the American Midwest. The push west wasn't just about opportunity. For many, it was about survival. Now, let's jump forward a few decades to the 1870s and the Great Plains. For a long time, this vast expanse of land was labeled the Great American Desert on maps, considered unfit for farming. But then, something strange happened. The weather patterns shifted, bringing unusually high rainfall to the region for several years. This environmental misunderstanding fueled a massive, unsustainable land rush. Howls! Thousands of homesteaders flocked to the plains, eager to claim their piece of the seemingly new paradise. But the unseen hand giveth, and the unseen hand taketh away. By the late 1880s, the temporary wet cycle ended, and the region reverted to its semi-arid state. The rains stopped, the crops failed. The result was widespread economic collapse, foreclosures, and immense hardship. This disaster gave birth to a powerful new political force in American history, the populist movement. This allowed for a diverse, mechanized agriculture centered on grains like wheat and corn. The North could feed its armies and its cities with relatively few farm laborers, freeing up manpower for its factories and its military. The South, in contrast, had built its economy almost entirely on cash crops like cotton and tobacco. These crops are notorious for rapidly depleting soil nutrients. To maintain production, the southern plantation system was in a state of constant exhaustion, always needing new, fresh land to exploit. This environmental reality was a huge driver behind the South's aggressive political push to expand slavery into new Western territories. It wasn't just about ideology. It was an economic necessity created by the limitations of their soil. Long before the first shot was fired at Fort Sumter, nature had already set the stage for a collision. Pats. The most famous example of the environment's power is the Dust Bowl of the 1930s. This catastrophe was the direct result of a collision between human ignorance and natural cycles. Following the rain follows the plow myth. A wet decade had encouraged farmers to plow up millions of acres of the southern plains, destroying the native prairie grasses that had held the soil in place for centuries with their deep root systems. When a severe, prolonged drought hit in the 1930s, a completely normal occurrence for that region, there was nothing left to anchor the topsoil. The wind did the rest. It picked up the loose, dry dirt and created monstrous black blizzards of dust that buried homes, choked livestock, and made life unbearable. The unseen hand didn't just create dust, it created refugees. The Okie migration was the largest short-term migration in American history. Those hundreds of thousands of displaced families fled the Dust Bowl, reshaping the demographics of California and the Pacific Northwest. This disaster forced the federal government to act, leading to the creation of the Soil Conservation Service and fundamentally changing how America managed its natural resources. The hand had struck back, and the nation learned a painful lesson. Even the very founding of the nation was subject to the whims of the climate. The American Revolution took place during a period known as the Little Ice Age, a centuries-long cold snap that made winters in the 1770s far harsher than they are today. Think about that iconic image: George Washington crossing the Delaware River on Christmas night in 1776. He was into just dodging enemy patrols. He was navigating a river choked with massive ice flows, a direct result of this colder climate. The bitter cold, fog, and sleet that accompanied his crossing provided crucial cover for his surprise attack on the Hessians at Trenton. A slightly warmer winter, a clear river, and history might look very different. The brutal winter that followed at Valley Forge was another environmental trial by fire. The extreme hardship didn't break the Continental Army. It forged it into a more disciplined, professional fighting force, capable of eventually winning independence. We love to see ourselves as the masters of our own destiny, the authors of our own story. But as we look back, we see that the American narrative has always been a dance between human ambition and ecological reality. From the push west to the outcome of wars and the rise of political movements, the unseen hand of the environment has been there, guiding, forcing, and shaping events. Every great leap forward was either permitted or prompted by the shifting patterns of the Earth. To truly understand our history, we have to look beyond the great men and women. We have to look at the ground beneath their feet and the sky above their heads. Thanks for watching. If you found this perspective on history interesting, do you and forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories about the hidden forces that shape our world.